Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. A little 4-year-old girl was sitting on her grandpa's lap. He was reading her a story, and she started touching his wrinkled cheek, and then she would touch her own wrinkle. And finally he stopped, and she looked at him, and he looked at her, and she said, "Grandpa, did God make you?" He said, "Yes, honey, God made me." "And did God make me?" "Absolutely, God made you." She touched his cheek again, touched hers. He's getting better at this. I like that joke for 2 reasons. One, because it's just cute, and we all love a good kid story, and I'm coming into my wrinkle stage. I'm okay with that. And also, did I tell you, I don't know if I told you this, my daughter, the daughter of my heart, she's not biologically or legally mine, but I've been her daddy since day one, and she's 13. Last summer, she was at my house, and my friend Lainey was there with me, and we were doing something on YouTube, and an old album cover of mine came from 2001. And Lainey said, "Oh, Michael, I love that picture of you." And Micah looked at the TV, looked at me, and said, "That's you?" Yes, anyway. For me, that joke also talks about growth. God's getting better. Well, we know that God is infinite and unchanging, the eternal infinite one, but we are expressions of God, and that's the place where God's getting better. As we do our individual work of healing and growth, then we raise the vibration of humanity, and you could easily say that Spirit is growing through us, as us. We are the place. The growth edge of God is right here, the green and growing edge. Hildegard of Bingen's a famous German mystic from the Middle Ages, and she said, "Let me remain on the green and growing edge of my becoming." Isn't that beautiful? And that's where we want to be, on the green and growing edge of our becoming. So what am I talking about today? We're talking about the language of emotions. We're starting a new series. Last month we did the language of the divine. This month we're doing the language of emotions. And I have to say that this has not always been our forte in unity and New Thought. I just want to do a quick poll. Who here, are you a thinking person or a feeling person? If you think you're more of a feeling person, raise your hand. And if you think you're more of a thinking person, raise your hand. Pretty evenly split. If you've ever done the Myers-Briggs personality test, that third letter is that's right, that's the feeling or thinking. It's the second letter is intuitive or sensing. And they say that most people, the NFs, it's only about 15% of the general population, but it's about 80% of Unity and New Thought churches. We tend to be intuitive feeling types. Interesting. But our teaching, we have the law of mind action. We teach personal transformation through the law of mind action, which the simple way to remember that is thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. We teach spiritual transformation through the mind. Well, where is the emotion in that? And here's one of the kind of the shadows of our teaching is that we call some emotions negative, and we don't want much to do with them. The big ones, and you're going to be hearing about them all month, so I promise you'll like it. There's going to be tools here. Don't stay away. But we're going to talk about anger. We're going to talk about fear, and we're going to talk about sadness. This I believe, it's actually a missing part in our transformational journey for many of us. That instead of harnessing the power of all of our emotions and begin to listen to what it is they're trying to tell us, what we do is we tend to suppress or repress something that is negative. And so what I want to talk to us today is about, I'm setting up the whole series today. I'm going to talk about how we can begin to work more collaboratively and intelligently with our emotional nature. I'll be dipping into this wonderful book by Carla McLaren called The Language of Emotions, where I got the title. And this is what she says. Emotions, especially the unwanted and dishonored ones, hold a tremendous amount of energy. We've all seen what happens when we repress or carelessly express them. Your ability to work intelligently with your emotions is a key factor in determining your overall well-being. Now, some of you know that. Some of you have been practicing things on your emotional health and healing emotional wounds your whole life. And some of you, this is kind of a new thing. I think I first became aware of it in my recovery work, and this was quite a while ago, and there was a man in that meeting. He used to say this every time: my biggest problem is not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is how I feel about my biggest problem. Addiction has often been called a disease of the feelings, where our feelings are so overwhelming, our emotions are so hard that we find ways to numb out. Chemically, carbohydratically, internetically. We find ways that we can distract ourselves from an unpleasant emotional experience, and we can become addicted to that, whatever that substance is, whatever that pattern of thinking or behavior is. And Richard Rohr also says this wonderful thing. He said, and I did a series on this last year, I think. He said that we're all addicted to our own way of thinking. And so this idea of recovering, it's a big part of recovery work is to get in touch with those emotions, see where they come from. And I want to say, too, that when our movement started in the mid-18th century, late 18th century, early 20th century really got happening, psychology was just getting going. And so we had this idea that this, again, the law of mind action, I can hold a thought in my mind and then I can create the experience. But how many of you have thought, I'm winning the lottery? How many people have won the lottery? They didn't understand, our early teachers, about the power of the unconscious mind. And the place where we stuff and repress our emotions, that's where it goes. It doesn't go away. It doesn't go away. The pain that we couldn't bear from our childhood, if we haven't done the work on healing that trauma, it hasn't gone away. And it will still be driving some of our actions unconsciously. So this is good work. It's not a downer. It's not going to be hard, I promise you. This is going to hopefully be an encouragement for all of us just to take a look at where we are with our emotional well-being. You know, here's how I can prove that we've all learned to suppress our emotions. We're all this language of emotions. What we want to do is get fluent with it, work with it between the opposites of repression or suppression and unhealthy expression of it. You've seen people that just have no control over their emotions. That's not good. But there's all this middle ground. And we weren't taught how to do this as kids. As a matter of fact, my emotional nature was shamed and discouraged, and that the language of emotions was actively, shamed, I guess I'd say. So here's how I knew it. One of the first ways I heard it was like, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about. The threat of punishment by violence would make me, I remember just kind of trying to stop myself. I'm an emotional being. Some of you who know me are not surprised by that statement. I am. I'm very emotional. And as a kid, I was very emotional. I don't think my parents knew what to do with me. That I was very emotional. And so what they learned to do was punish it, make it wrong, stop it. If you don't stop, I'll give you something to cry about. So at an early age, I learned not to love my emotional self. I learned to repress my emotional self. Now, it didn't work for too long. Well, it did. Alcoholism tended to change the whole success rate of my suppression. I'll just say that. But I think since that time, and so it's been, my first real attempt at sobriety was when I was 25. So it's been a while that I've been doing this work, because I'm 27 now. So it's been a long time. Yeah. I'm older than that. But as I began to look at this work of emotions, there was something your laugh made me lose my point. Okay. Oh, yeah. So we looked at Jesus of Nazareth as the way shower, not not as a savior, but as our elder brother or the way shower. And this is what I was thinking about. The gospel accounts that we have in the Bible, they do depict Jesus as an emotional person. Some of you will know this. Who knows what John 11:35 is? In my Bible people. It's the shortest verse in the Bible. Does that help? Jesus wept. I've done a whole sermon on that passage, that Jesus was moved after his friend Lazarus had died. And in the mourning and the grief, he expressed that sympathy, that sadness. Jesus was sad. That's what at least the stories that have come to us. You probably know the story in the Bible that depicts Jesus as angry. The money changers in the temple, if you grew up with that story, this is what Jesus said after he threw over the tables. He said, where is it? It is written, my house will be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers. There was a sense of justice and wrongdoing. Jesus would kind of get mad a lot. And you know what I noticed? He wasn't mad at the people the religious people were mad at. He was mad at the religious people. His harshest criticism came for those who were judging and criticizing others as missing the mark, whereas Jesus was having dinner with the prostitutes and the tax collectors. Yeah. But there is a sense of anger, healthy anger that he exhibited. And then sadness. Oh, I already said sadness. Fear. Yeah. I don't know. This story comes from the Garden of Gethsemane story right before the crucifixion and resurrection. And no one was there to record it, so I don't know that this happened. But I always like to say about these stories, I don't know if any of this happened, but I know it's true. But before Jesus' arrest, as he was praying in the garden and his disciples kept falling asleep, they weren't standing watch as he asked them to. And 3 times he prayed the prayer, if it's possible to remove this cup from me, please take it away. So that feels like there's some fear, like something is really hard. And then what he said after that, but not my will, but thy will be done. How many of you have been taught that if you're having fear or sadness or anger, you're doing something wrong? I've been taught that. So what I hope to do in this series is normalize our emotional nature. And not only that, but point us to some places where we can tap into the power, as Carla McLaren says, tap into the energy that will move us into new places of freedom and fulfillment. Does that sound good? Let's do that. Let's do that with our emotions rather than just stew and judge, okay? This is another quote from Carla McLaren, not Malcolm McLaren's book. That's somebody else. The primary rule of emotional flow is this: all emotions are true. Hold on. All emotions tell the absolute truth, either about the specific action that brought the emotion into play or about some area of the psyche. Even irrational, trapped, or repetitive emotions tell the truth about something, whether it's about a past trauma, a lost memory, a physical imbalance, or a severe reaction to certain stimuli. And this is the part you need to hear. All emotions are true. This doesn't mean that all emotions are right, or you should take their word for everything. Sometimes what we're feeling in the moment, it's not about what's happening in the moment. It's about some old trauma that we have not healed, about some old experience. And yet we take that disowned part of our own experience in nature. That's what the shadow is. It's all of those parts of ourselves that we have not been able to fully integrate and bring into consciousness. It's like we throw these rocks in a backpack. And we think, well, that's gone. It's still there. And how many of you have ever heard this, I tell you, recovery is a great tool chest for if you want to grow around some of this stuff. I was taught that they're not doing it to you, Michael. They're just doing it. It's not about you. It's about them. And yet, if what them does triggers my old emotional pain, I'm going to get right in there engaged with it. They're the problem. Am I really confessing that to my church? I am. Sometimes I have those moments of like, well, that's the problem. She's the problem. He's the problem. And what this work that we're going to be doing this month will offer us the opportunity is to reframe that emotional response. Just be with it before we act out on it, before we push it away. See what the truth is that's waiting to be revealed. McLaren says that there are 3 states to our emotions. Actually, I think we have time. I'm going to do a brief version of this exercise with us, if you're willing to go with me. Please take a deep breath. Fill your chest so your belly, you can feel a little bit of tension there. Not too much, just a little. And hold your breath for a few seconds. Count to 3. Now, as you breathe out, make small, gentle, spiraling movements with your hands and your arms, your feet. Just begin to move your body a little bit in gentle, easy, relaxing ways. Now breathe again. Expand your chest until you feel that little bit of a tension. Hold it for a count of 3. Now as you breathe out, sigh as you move your body in gentle motions and just let go like a rag doll. Now breathe normally and check in. If you feel a bit softer or calmer, maybe even a little bit tired, you can thank the emotion that helped you release your tension and restore some of your flow. Thank your sadness. You can open your eyes. That's what healthy, flowing sadness feels like. That's what it does. It helps us let go. Helps you bring back flow into your system. You don't have to cry to be sad. You can just let go. Sadness is about releasing things and relaxing into yourself. Now, Reverend Stacy is going to be speaking on sadness in 2 weeks, but what that illustrates is these 3 states of emotions that Carla McLaren talks about. The first is flow state. There's nothing wrong there. We wouldn't even call that sadness, would we? Just that letting go, but that's what it is. Next week, I'm going to talk about anger. And anger, the flow state of anger, has nothing to do with feeling mad or angry. It has to do with watching the perimeter, maintaining my boundaries. We're going to talk about boundaries next week. And can you feel that I can begin to work with my emotions differently with this information? That I don't have to make it, that I'm really angry or raging to tap into the power of this emotion. The second state she calls mood states, and this is what most of us think of as being our emotions. When I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling scared, and we can identify the feeling state. That's a mood state. But it was already trying to get our attention before it got to that state. The third stage is what she calls the raging rapids. Do I need to explain? Where we have been completely overwhelmed and hijacked by our emotional nature. We've lost control. Do you know about the amygdala? It's a little piece in the brain. It's an old part of the brain, part of the reptilian brain. So I'm going to show you a little trick I learned. See, this is the amygdala. This is the brainstem. And this is the cerebral cortex. This is the last part of the human brain to evolve. This is our rational, logical, decision-making part of the brain. When we get triggered, something happens that triggers an old trauma that we have never healed, we flip our lid. And do you know what this part does? Freeze, fight, or flight. Those are the immediate survival instincts that will kick in. It's because we have flipped our lid. We've lost the ability to be rational and make decisions. That's the raging rapids. This is good information, isn't it? So, what are we going to do with it? Well, I promise you, attending the next 3 weeks of Sunday services at Unity Houston will not do all the work for you. But we do want to begin to at least have the awareness. It's the invitation into some deeper work. And why? Why would we want to do this work of emotional healing? It's fun being mad at people, isn't it? So my friend used to say, I'm Irish. I only feel truly happy when I'm a little sad. It's like it's okay to feel our emotions. And when we heal our emotions, we actually they don't go away. We actually become more aware of them and the richness of the human experience by being able to feel it all so fully. Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, this is very famous, and I love it. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with peace. Yeah, we sing it every Sunday. Do you think peace is possible on earth? I heard some no's, and I hear some yes. Or unity, we're positive, but yeah, I was like, so far our track record isn't good as human beings, is it? It's not. And you can't change political systems and structures all on your own. But where do you have the locus of control? Where do you have the ability, the leverage to change something that will eventually bring peace on earth? Right here. Right here. This is where we do the work. I love this scripture. This is from 2 Corinthians 12. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. See, that's where we're going. We want emotional freedom. In verse 18, and we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate God's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever-increasing glory, which comes from God, who is Spirit. I love the way verse 18 is stated in the King James. It's a little bit more poetic. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image, from glory unto glory, even as by the Spirit of God. I'm an evolutionary spiritual teacher. I don't teach an arrival date or a destination in this journey called spiritual growth. If God is infinite, and if God is eternal, and if I'm a part of God, that means I have all eternity to keep doing my work. Ernest Holmes says that freedom is the birthright of every individual soul. What we're really after is freedom. Freedom from that which limits and binds us, and freedom to express the truth of who we are. And until we do the work of emotional healing, our freedom will be limited. I've been talking about this book that I'm writing, and I'm not trying to sell pre-sell copies of it. What I'm actually doing, I realized, I just figured this out, is I'm making myself accountable to finish the dang book. I finished the first draft, and my editor told me that the thing I need to do is read it cover to cover and see how it holds together as a work, and not to edit yet. I'm about to enter the deep, dark, scary woods of writing a book, which is the second edit, and I'm terrified. But that's another story. But even just reading my first draft, I couldn't do it. I found myself blocked and resistant. I'd read it half a chapter, and I was like, I just can't. So I texted my editor and canceled a meeting with her because I hadn't been able to finish reading it. And then, so a month went by, and then I was like 2 days before our next meeting, it's like, well, I'm not going to cancel another meeting. I'm going to force myself to read it. And I did, and it was a Monday afternoon, and I read the last 6.5 chapters I'd done, and I had a really strong emotional reaction. I sobbed and heaved for 10 minutes. Completely surprised me. It hit something old and something deep. Now, I'm pretty healthy, I think. But I'm not ashamed to tell you that I have unhealed pain in my emotional life. And there was something about telling the stories from this great conflict in my life of being a full believer in the born-again fundamentalist theology that I grew up in, and also knowing I was gay, the ships that were on a collision course in my life. It was a traumatic experience for me. And I never really grieved what I lost. I just got busy trying to survive. And my first attempts were drinking. That didn't work. And then eventually into recovery and into therapy. So this week I got a new therapist. I'm here to tell you. Yeah, see that? I'm doing it. Now, I was taught in seminary that it's really good to share your process with your community, but don't process with your community. So I'm not going to tell you the things I'm telling my new therapist. And the truth is, whatever this thing is, I feel a little off-centered. I know that but I feel fine. I'm functional. I've been laughing. It's not derailing my spiritual life, but it is calling me deeper. When I was first in recovery, I was given this image of the layers of the onion. And you know the old saying, I say it a lot, if it's not one thing, it's your mother. And the first bit of real psychological, emotional work you do on healing your relationship with your mother, well, that's done. Whew! And then you go through your life, and here comes another piece. And then I was told, well, that's the layers of the onion. You have done healing work, but there's deeper, more work to do. First time that happened, I was pissed off. I was angry. There's my emotional freedom. I did not know I'd done this work. And then I learned it's going to keep coming, so I did the work. Then the next time it came up again, I was like, really? More? Now I know I do the work. And it's not always therapy. That's just a place where I have found a lot of efficacy in my work, but there are other things you can do. But eventually, a friend told me this would happen. It gets to the place where when that piece of pain comes up again, your first thought is like, oh my God, I thought I did it. It's not that. And it's like, oh, here I go again. It's like, okay, more freedom is coming. If I stay engaged in this, if I do the work, more freedom is coming. And I don't care if you're 19 or 99. Freedom is here for you if you're willing to do this emotional work. And why do we do it? Well, here is the great win-win of all time. Not only do you experience more freedom and fulfillment in your life because you're not who you thought you were under all that emotional baggage that you took on. That's not who you were. You get this experience of more lightness and freedom. I mean, it's really incredible. Now, it's going to change your whole life, just be warned. But then, let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. I become a beneficent contribution to the healing of humanity. Right here in my little circle, I become the place where humanity is healed. Right here. And you do too. And when we are healed enough, we are invited to serve one another. We get to be a part of this global system of health and healing. And we practice that right here in our community. So I'm going to switch gears, but that's the end of my talk. Thank you for listening. Come back next week. Don't be scared. It's going to be good. And if nobody has told you today they love you, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.